this pesticide that's very, very common in the US. And it's so potent that if you give it to like male frogs, like young male frogs, they become female to the extent where they can bear children.
I've heard of this. That is insane.
Insane.
Hey, Catherine. What's up? How are you?
What's up? I'm good.
How's the baby treating you?
It's been awesome. Let's roll.
When did you get in?
Like a week or so ago.
Okay.
But I've been up at Edge City.
Edge City. I'm actually not familiar.
It's epic. It's this like Edge Esmeralda concept, like a proto-town type of thing. And it's kind of like if you took a summer camp for adults crossed with like a conference, but one that's not shit. Pardon my French. And then like being back at university, except everybody is like super passionate, like knows what they want to do in life and like wants to rant about it for ages. Got
it. So it is definitely a place with a lot of people that are poly, hyper intellectual, and into both creative fields and tech.
Yeah.
That's my guess.
Like multifaceted people that are like, yeah, they want to talk to you about their like art project, but also happen to be like, I don't know, chief product officer at some like massive AI company.
Nice. Those are hardcore Burning Man vibes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, a lot of crossover there, for sure.
Have you been to Burning Man?
No, I really want to. I feel like I'm kind of letting the universe guide me.
That's exactly what someone who just came back from Burning Man would say. So
exactly. I want to go to Africa Burn as well.
Oh yes, one of my friends has been and says it was actually a lot of fun. Have you been to Africa before? I've been to
February in London is literally the worst place ever. So for the last few years I've just been going to Cape Town and working remotely.
Nice.
And would recommend it a lot.
You should go to Egypt.
Yeah, that's where you're from, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that's one that's definitely on my list.
A lot of Brits in Egypt.
Really?
Yeah, you guys came down there initially for the whole like colonization thing, but
they kind of
bygones be bygones, honestly.
Yeah.
So okay, you started out your career in a research lab studying MS, or what were you doing initially? Neuroscience?
Yeah. Well, technically I was in med school, and then I realized that I was cutting all my classes to go to the neuro classes. Like anything neuroscience related was basically endlessly fascinating to me. Partially because it's one of those subjects where the more questions you ask, the more confused you get. Like the answer to every single question I had.
It depends.
It depends, or like, we don't know, or like, maybe we'll know in 15 years.
In mice, technically it works, but
yeah, but also we don't know why. And it doesn't always work.
This is something that really frustrated me when I started investing in biotech, is like the answers were just so this is what we think it is. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, well, we don't. It's...
And also like to the context of like, it was, for example, like depression. Like learning about like what we know about depression, which is basically -1, and like all of these antidepressant medications that we were giving out, and then realizing that like most of them were worse than placebo, and yet we're literally just shilling them out like candy in most places.
Yeah.
Just like things like that would just like kind of made me angry, kind of made me more curious.
Prescriptions as a service, baby.
Exactly. Now I
keeps the healthcare industry going.
Exactly. It's funny how things come full circle. But
it's crazy because like you can have this like one type of like serotonin that like completely makes your depression worse, and then this other type that happens to be in these specific compounds that are commonly used here.
Yeah. Well, and also the serotonin hypothesis is like provably false, and yet we haven't changed the way. Like we know that a lot of it's like basically bullshit, and yet we still prescribe it.
This is true. I mean, okay, I know you've done some work on psychedelics research.
Yes.
What initially got you into that, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so it was a really weird situation because I was working at an eating disorder ward at the time, kind of doing this like patient advocacy stuff, and essentially being an in-between between the patients, the researchers, the clinicians, and the strategy people, because they didn't really like to talk each other's languages, and I was essentially just a translator between those four like stakeholders. And eating disorders are really, really tricky to treat. It was quite horrible, honestly, working in that ward, seeing that there was very limited options that we could give those people. It's like is the deadliest mental health disorder. Well, now technically the second most deadly, only after the opioid crisis. Sorry, this is taking a dark turn. I promise we'll loop back out. But yeah, and then there were a couple of patients that I saw on the ward that were very, very unwell. They just suddenly got way better. I was like, how have you done this? Like, what like how like we need to scale whatever you've done. And the answer was, we've taken psychedelics. And which was ironic because obviously, you know, I ended up studying neuroscience, but maybe somebody had mentioned psychedelics once in the context of like, don't do drugs, and that was it. So I started which is very part of my character, I got obsessed, started doing all these deep dives, met like all of these big, because in London...
What type of deep dives were you doing?
Oh, like any books, I was like ordering these textbooks that were literally like this fat.
Okay.
Like, all coming, like just devouring everything I had. Like there was a really good newsletter called Psychedelic Alpha that had come out. I was basically just reading everything. I started to write my own like white paper on it. I started getting in contact with like all sorts of like charities and groups that were like facilitating therapy areas. And then, yeah, I just kind of found that it was this area that had been doing really well actually before, you know, the 60s and the Vietnam War. Like even, for example, the founder of AA, he'd taken acid and realized that there was like a lot of therapeutic benefit for people with like alcoholism or other addictions.
Incredibly effective in with alcoholism, and specifically very effective for alcoholic women.
Really?
Due to this thing called the telescoping effect, which essentially is essentially like alcohol for some reason causes women to downward spiral a lot faster than men. But conversely, like the psychedelics like counteract that effect faster. So it's almost like they just, both things work on them stronger essentially.
Yeah, totally. Also, weirdly, side note, depending on where a woman is on her cycle, which is also something that we really haven't understood, like, because the way that you absorb drugs is very different depending on where you are in your cycle, depending on like what hormones are in, which is kind of fascinating. More complexity, as though we needed that. Exactly. And it's just like, yeah, it's just one of those areas, like even finding out things like that, you're like, what, how, why? This is so interesting. So I got really interested in that. And I actually wanted to work for AGI, which is a big publicly traded...
Yeah, actually Christian Angermayer backed a fund that you used to work at that has done a ton on the psychedelic research front.
Yeah, and that's how I got in contact with him and the Remind team. Because I wanted to join AGI. I was like, well, these guys are, you know, I kind of like their model. They were kind of acquiring lots of different types of little psychedelic companies and like kind of almost being like a platform psychedelics approach. And I was like, that's cool. And then I met the partner at Remind, asked him basically for a warm intro to AGI. And I guess the end of that conversation was no, but do you want to come in for like essentially a trumped up internship at this fund that I'm launching? And I did, and never looked back.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sometimes just asking for a good warm intro is the way.
Totally. And just having those conversations, like, for sure. Yeah.
Has that been a space that you've been excited to invest in still?
Psychedelics? I'm very interested in the space on like a personal level. I think it will do a ton of good for the world. I like follow it all in like a charitable sense. One of our founders, actually, the founder of Peak Games, is starting a foundation in Turkey to help. Like all of this is amazing, but as like a venture style play, I mean, Compass and Atai aren't doing super well. It's a little bit unclear to me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it is not the thing that you invest in directly, but perhaps it's the thing that causes the things that you invest in.
For sure. Is it a space that you've looked into?
It is a space I've looked into. I think the key thing is that, like, it is the technology, right? Like, I don't think there's much of, and I hope to be proven wrong, and maybe there are, like, interesting commercial applications, but I almost think it's one of those things that should just be made more accessible, and it's more of a regulation challenge.
Yeah.
And just getting it out there in safe ways versus like it needs more investment challenge.
Yeah.
I think it needs more like advocacy. It needs better regulation around it, but I'm not sure if the constraint is like capital, but I could be wrong.
Well, it's also, it feels like we're pumping capital in, but it's into an inefficient system, and therefore it's like not doing what we want, because like at the moment we have millions of people on waiting lists for like 10 sessions of CBT. and a lot of like for the MAPS MDMA therapy, it requires like 2 hours of 4-hour sessions with 2 therapists at a time, plus 10 hours, like 10 sessions beforehand, plus like all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, that's just not gonna. We have to figure out the broader like how we deal with mental health first before we start adding this on. Otherwise, like there's nowhere for it to stick if the infrastructure on which we're trying to stick it onto is like such a mess.
Yes, like it's almost like there's 3 components. There's like the scientific component, and that takes like brilliant people in biotech and researchers in general. Then you kind of have like the pragmatic side of things, which you've also experienced. I'm curious, like, what was it like when you were, running down those NHS corridors? What did you learn through that?
Don't try to sell to the NHS. I mean, although we have a portfolio company that's done it remarkably well. But yeah, I mean, that would be one. It's also just like how backwards the system is, like how like rife. Well, the optimistic slant is like how rife the healthcare industry at large is for innovation. Like there was one time where, and I'm not joking, the fax machine broke. And I'm not 97 years old. Like this was a few years ago. Like the NHS is still the largest purchaser of fax machines in the world. And like the US also, I think, transmits like at least 20% of its healthcare data via fax still. Like
that's actually insane.
It's 2025. We're talking about AGI, and yet people are still faxing stuff.
That is actually insane.
It's insane. So I think it's just stuff like that. And I think it did also help me understand a little bit more about the psychology of the people involved. Like changing the coffee machine was this like huge drama. And then people are coming at me like, oh, we're going to like rip up their entire workflow, like blah, 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 blah. I think it's given me a bit of like a sense of like, no, this needs to be...
We just need to integrate into their existing CRM. They don't have a CRM.
No,
like, there's
yeah, exactly. There's an assumption that there's... And yeah, things are changing and definitely like very rapidly, which is good to see, but you would think it would be more rapid. Yeah, I kind of compare it to, like in Kenya, they went straight from like cash to
mobile money.
Exactly. Maybe we can do the same in healthcare, of like go straight from fax to AI and skip all the like stuff in between.
I hope so. Sometimes that happens and it's quite surprising how quickly things can just turn.
Yeah.
Not exactly sure what needs to happen to spark it. Potentially something more along the lines of like making it insanely easy.
Yeah.
But also, is it not insanely easy to just get an email now and like not use fax? Like, what is the thing that makes it so just hard to switch out? Is it the regulation? Is it the difficulty?
I think it's a mixture of things. I think realistically, regulations will... There's enough power. Like people are very powerful in the healthcare industry, and they are able to change regulations if they can like show ROI and show that it's easy. So, and I do think that AI can do both of those things, and there are amazing companies doing both of those things, and therefore like regulations are starting to change. Like you can take the very pessimistic view of like it'll never change, we're like it's going to be absolute chaos, all these like AI agents are going to have all our healthcare data and like chaos will ensue. But also, I don't know, I'm a VC, I can't be, if you have that view, then what's the point?
It's not a lot of investing that can happen in that case, but I do think it's that. Wait, also, let me put my phone on airplane mode, otherwise I'm just going to get blown up. There we go. Oh, no, FSD, don't punish me. All right. There we go.
Look at the rainbow situation. That's
yeah, we're in San Francisco.
Ah, that's cute.
It reminded me of like Mario Kart Rainbow Road. I wonder if that's why they did that.
Oh yeah, fair. I was thinking like Burnout. Did you ever play Burnout?
I did not, know.
It was great.
What video games did you play growing up?
Time Splitters 3 was the absolute best. It's like a very obscure game that nobody else has ever heard of.
Do you still game?
Occasionally. Not so much though. I'm definitely a huge advocate for like letting kids game though. Like our parents were very anti it. Like you'd have to like sneak around and play video games in the dead of night kind of thing, because they're like, this will rot your brain. And I actually totally disagree with that.
Yeah, I think they either need to be doing like deep internet stuff or touching grass. I don't want them necessarily spending that much time on like TikTok or social media, but if they want to like build a Minecraft server, by all means go ahead. If you want to like get a computer, by all means go ahead. If you want to go touch grass, by all means go ahead. But if you're just gonna like sit there and scroll, oh, are they gonna go over? Can't quite tell.
I don't think they can quite tell either.
Okay.
No, I totally agree. Yeah, if you're just gonna sit back and consume, then that's not. Then just sit back and like lie on some grass for sure, or participate. Think about strategic things.
Has there been anything that's like shocked you about American consumer culture?
Yeah, it is quite intense. Like I was saying with a friend a few weeks ago, and yeah, you go into their lobby and every day there's thousands and thousands of Amazon packages.
Yes.
What is that? Is that something that you...
Capitalism, baby. Goods and services.
How long have you been in the US now?
I've been in the US since I was 17, so I'm dating myself now. I think I've been here for like 8 years.
Wow, okay. So you're used to it.
Used to it, but like still every once in a while I'm like, wow, there's just like so much stuff to buy and like so many things like trying to like grab my money.
Totally.
Like in the US, one of the things is like you have to actively protect your money, or like all the subscriptions and all the like traps and potential, like everything is like actively trying to like siphon away your capital, so you need to actively protect it.
Totally.
Versus like in Egypt or like in France, I was like, okay, like if I don't spend it, it's just going to be there. Yeah,
it'll just accrue. Yeah. Did you see that on the Amazon packages they started using it as advertising for like TV shows and stuff for Prime?
Oh my god.
I mean, it was only a matter of time. I'm actually kind of surprised that it didn't take.
Pretty smart.
Yeah. When I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, of course they did.
But it's like peak consumerism.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited by like technology in the US. I don't really love the state of commerce here.
Okay.
In the sense that like the quality of life and the quality of goods and services is actually not that exceptional, but like the cutting edge tech here is great.
Yeah. What are you most excited about in the next few years with everything that's going on, from like AI to current government?
I'm probably most excited by the ability to like actually take ownership over like self-experimentation and like being able to literally just do our own experiments on our bodies and have the right to just do that, and then a limited like expanded capacity to have other people try out these like biohacking experiments, whether through things like Prospera,
Hair DAO.
Stuff like that.
Interesting.
Super interesting too.
I love that. There's just these two guys that are just obsessed with hair growth and
like anything. So I really hope that we have better temporary gene therapies and stuff that we can just like try out, see if we like it, see how it works, and if it doesn't work, stop it. Things like everything going on with peptides is also really exciting.
Yes.
Like just being able to like get on the cutting edge of personal health, I think is cool.
Totally.
What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree that a lot of that is really interesting. Some of it's slightly worrying. There's a really cool biohacking group that meets up in New York like every Wednesday. And like they're all like taking methylene blue.
Yeah, wait, I think I'm in that group chat. Is
Jay.
It? Yes. Wait, I'm in.
Awesome.
That's crazy.
You go there and they're all like taking methylene blue and like
correct
shooting up like tires and whatever it is.
Yeah, I got like, okay, so I had an issue with the police at one point because the initial issue was a small stupid thing, but then I had all of these like syringes and like Russian peptides in the car.
Oh god.
And like I had to explain what was going on and like if I was like distributing, because I had like
it's anti-inflammatory.
Like and then I had to like pull up like a Notion page, and then it'd just be like it was like cortexin and cerebrolysine, and I was like the Notion page I had titled like mootropics because they come from cows.
Right.
And then they were like,
classic.
I think they saw the Notion page and they were just like, no, don't want to deal with this right now. Just go. Just go. Like, so yeah, now I don't have 40 syringes in the car anymore.
Good to hear it. I was starting to sound to be a little bit alarmed there.
Got lucky the first time, so yeah.
Why did you have so many? What do those peptides do?
So, cortexin and cerebrolysine are both these like peptides that are found in cow and pig brain respectively, and basically they promote like NGF and like BDNF to basically just make your brain like more plastic, learn things quicker, and it's used for kids with like slight developmental disabilities, potentially stutters or like reading comprehension challenges, and it's used mostly in Russia. And then they applied that to adults with like neurodegenerative conditions like Alzheimer's. And, they found it to help with that. And then from there, they started giving it to people with ADHD, kind of like off-label, and it was useful for that. And so for me, I was really just trying to find a neuroprotective way, or at least non-neurotoxic way to like help my ADHD.
Oh, interesting.
And I felt like the only solution in the US was like, legalized meth, basically.
Yeah. It's just wild.
Yeah.
Let's give kids meth. Like going back to the things. I mean, yeah,
Crazy.
Wild. That's interesting. Do you find it's helped?
I have found it's hard to say because of the fact that like they're long-acting things.
Yeah.
From the data, it's supposed to help, but it's not the type of thing where like I can answer, oh, I've found that it's helped.
Sure.
That being said, there's this other compound called CMAX, which that I have in my car, but like it's essentially this like nasal spray that you take that is that also increases BDNF, and that one is more short acting. And I have found that like increasing BDNF, or I have found that peptides have helped. So from that, I'm like, okay, the longer acting ones must be doing something.
There's something.
So yeah, there's something there, but like hard to measure.
Interesting. See, like stuff like that, I'm really interested in. If we do, and I'm pretty optimistic of the fact that we'll all have these sort of AI assistants kind of monitoring what we're doing all this time. We really can do these N of 1 studies, right? Like if it was just passively, because I was really interested in passive monitoring for the context of mental health for the longest time. Like invest in a bunch of companies there, like realize it was a lot harder than than I thought it was going to be.
We were actually introduced through Max Marchione building Superpower.
Exactly. Yeah.
Really cool the work they're doing in that space, and actually seeing some of the stuff on my dashboard that I needed to fix has been a big part of the reason I started doing this. Like, I hate to call it self-experimentation because it sounds very rogue, but it has been very helpful.
Yeah, I bet. No, that's true. Yeah, definitely cool. It's also good to see that there's a lot of kind of movement happening in the chronic care space and like preventative health. Although I also love that like preventative care has basically just had this huge blow up, and it's now being rebranded as longevity.
Yes. Nothing like a good Silicon Valley buzzword to get some capital in the door.
Add in AI to that, and now we're talking. Ooh. Are you investing much in that space?
Definitely really interested in longevity, interested in like deep tech, robotics, material science. Not really interested in like a lot of the more vague like AI agent stuff. I'm having trouble distinguishing between like I just feel like I'm seeing a lot of the same stuff. Like I really want to see software and being used to like impact things like back on the ground.
Okay.
Whether that's like our biologies or our built worlds or like the materials that we're using, all of these things are interesting to me. But I think like finding more and more efficiencies through B2B SaaS software, while is helpful, I think is incremental, and it's not gonna get that home run.
Yeah. Well, OpenAI obviously agrees with you. The whole Johnny Ives thing.
Yes. This OpenAI that's just crazy. Like, I know this is a common thing to think, but what a crazy thing to have happened over the past couple of years.
Yeah. I also love that they've essentially just given the money that SoftBank gave them and just given it to Johnny Ives.
Yeah.
I definitely do. But I totally agree. It's like something that I've been like, I'm sorry, but like this cannot be how we integrate. Like, this cannot be like the only way that we interact with technology.
No,
this cannot be the best form factor.
I completely agree. It is actually arguably one of the worst possible form factors. Having it just more embedded like in our realities and just going back to the real world is really exciting.
Yeah.
I think over the past like few decades, the Mark Andreessen thesis of software is eating the world has very much been true. And like we need to get back more from the software than just like better TikTok feeds.
Ideally.
Like though the TikTok feeds are fire.
Yeah, I really have to. I also have like intense ADHD brain. Like I can't do it. Otherwise, my brain will rot.
Do you think ADHD has helped you with your job?
Yes and no. Because if there's like something that I really don't want to do, like just like sitting down and trawling through LinkedIn, it's incredibly painful for me to do it. And it's also really hard when I do. I mean, Hummingbird is a great place because it does enable you to. The partners are very, very open to me going off on these like really weird tangents and getting really obsessed about these really obscure things. Which I think aligns with having ADHD.
This is very ADHD, yes.
But, I mean, yeah, there's always two sides of a coin, right? With light comes dark. For sure.
Is true. Do you know your Myers-Briggs type?
No.
Yeah, you should look into that. I do find that test to be pretty interesting.
Yeah.
A lot of people think it's pseudoscience-y, but like, sometimes I think science is pseudoscience-y.
Well, yeah, a lot of like science that's now become actual science started off as like woo science.
Yeah.
Even actually at Edge, there was like, it was literally tinfoil hat, basically, of like this whole thing about EMFs. Because there's this really cool company, I forget what it's called, and Andy Bromberg is the founder, and they're basically testing people's homes for like irregular EMFs and like flickering lights, which apparently has like impacts on your mood. And apparently there was really good research on like EMS from mobile phones, and this was before it was like, sorry, I'm sounding really tinfoil hat right now. I'm very well, like all my science friends are going to be like, what the hell has happened to Katherine? But then actually like start to look at the data, and it's pretty compelling. I'd recommend his Substack on a lot of this, because it's pretty intense.
We need to look through all of the tinfoil hat stuff,
yeah,
and actually like reevaluate it from first principles, and not like, I think we should actively be like, all right, what are the tinfoil hat experiments that people are most hyped about? And instead of trying to look at things through the lens of like, how do we falsify this with the scientific method?
Yeah.
How can we have like a very like geared towards like optimism, like what would make this potentially have some substance to it? Exactly.
Or just like go like just rethink the way that we, or even for example in the US, it's like the way that you, the fact that you have so many like pesticides and like other chemicals that are like the GRAS thing of like generally approved as safe. I always forget what the acronym's called, but like the fact that the US just allows all these chemicals on market, and you don't even have to like prove much about it. You can just put it into the water and all this kind of stuff. Like let's rethink about like, okay, how do we actually test these compounds? Like how do we actually know whether or not they're safe? How do we like not just put them everywhere? Wow, I'm going really tinfoil today.
I may be steering it in that direction. I do remember when I first came here, like seeing all the signs of, oh, this is organic. Oh, no artificial ingredients. I was like, wait, so I didn't presume that the other stuff was inorganic.
Yeah. Like, what's on the other stuff? Yeah. Well, yeah. There's another really good Substack or like newsletter is by Justin Mares from he did Kettle and Fire, the bone broth company, and then TrueMed. He talks a lot about this, and he was saying that there's this pesticide that's very, very common in the US, and it's so potent that if you give it to like male frogs, like young male frogs, they become female to the extent where they can bear children.
I've heard of this. That is insane.
Insane. And then we wonder why, like, all the... I wonder why are everyone's endocrines being disrupted? Like, well...
maybe...
Yeah, but then you can't even bring it up because people are like, oh, that's such a non-scientific thing. Like, I don't know, you can't even talk about it unless you're, I don't know, riding around in a Tesla in SF.
Maybe it's just because there's a lot of incentives geared towards making sure that we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Just like silence all of that real quick.
Yeah. Well, the amount of like lobbyists.
Yeah.
It's kind of insane. But yeah, you should do a ride along with Justin.
But that would be fun.
Yeah.
But despite all of its flaws, this place is really special. I don't know like how much of that you've felt already, but what's been like the most San Francisco thing that you've experienced so far?
Maybe just because recency bias, but so at Edge I met a really cool like founder and his partner, and they were like, oh, you're going to be in the Bay next week, like come to there's this community called Noasis in the city, and they have basically, it's like a load of founders and like, you know, the second engineer at Facebook and all these like really successful people, like tech people. Oh wow, speaking of SF, coming up on the bridge, what a beautiful view. Yeah, they bought up basically like a whole street, and they all commune around, they've like built up this little community, and they all just like pop into each other's flats, and it's like, you know, just there, and then like
perma burners.
Yeah, perma burners for sure, but they're all like incredibly interesting and successful people, and it's all very much like yes, and it's always like a lot more, and I think it's why I'm like so much more attracted to the US, particularly at the moment, where, you know, if you go to someone with an idea, they're like, yes, and how much? Oh, and then also, and they try to add to it and make it bigger. Whereas, I don't know, in the UK, it's very much like, oh, no, that won't work. And they try to kind of make it smaller and diminish the idea over time.
Yes. A lot of like tall poppy syndrome-esque effects outside the US.
Totally.
Or outside of like Silicon Valley in general. To a certain extent, like you can actually play a game here where literally try to like try to get people to like disagree with your ideas, and like sometimes if you play that game and come up with the most irrational stuff, people will still find a way to actually make that like thing work. Yeah. Even if it's like come up with a horrible idea, and like people will figure out how to make it an idea that actually could do something. And then maybe it does. Maybe that's what I was trying to do with the EMF thing. You don't know. Hey, maybe plant that seed. Would you move to the US? Yeah, I think I would. I mean, Hummingbird's kind of building. We're opening an office in SF. Okay, that's exciting. Yeah, I feel like I come out here a lot. So yeah, I went to this like summer camp thing. It's a 3-day summer camp-esque thing that one of our like LPs who are awesome hosted, and Hayo was there. Nice. That is the sound of me driving badly. Whenever you hear that, it means Tesla's like has its opinions on my driving. It's been very useful. I don't think you were driving. Maybe my bar's low. Maybe I'm just about to drive it, but I thought you were doing fine. Okay, summer camp, and Hayo was there, I was there. Yeah. She would also do the extreme deep dive into random topics. Yeah. Like, we would just like talk about stuff, and all of a sudden she'd go into this like biotech wormhole. Yeah, so she could get it, like anything physics related, robotics related. She's a gold mine. She'll nerd out. Information for sure, which I love, and I think it's kind of what Hummingbird optimizes for versus the sort of MBA kind of people. Which I know you deferred going to Oxford. That's a pretty big decision. What went into that? I mean, I feel like it's one of those things where in hindsight it's easy to create this like beautiful narrative around all your decisions, when in reality I think at the time it was just it just didn't sit right. I realized that I was doing it for reasons that weren't actually beneficial. I was doing it to like pump up my own ego. I was doing it because I thought that I needed, you know, the way that I grew up, I was very much self-sufficient from a very young age. I kind of felt like I never really fit in very much anywhere at all. Arguably still don't. I've kind of like flitted around, like never quite a scientist, never quite a business, all this kind of stuff. And I think I thought that I needed the title, the acclaim, whatever it is that comes with like having something shiny on your resume. And then I think I just kind of realized that I didn't care enough about what other people thought to put myself through what I felt was a waste of time. And I think I had this kind of sense of urgency in terms of life is short. And, you know, a year when you're like in your early 20s. That's like, a lot of time. You get so much done in your early 20s. It's like a year in your early 20s is like 10 in your, I don't know, early 60s, whatever. Yes. And so I think it was just a confluence of things. And there was just like a lot of other interesting stuff going on in life. And I felt like, where did you go to college? I did a kind of weird like program at the extension school at Harvard. So basically, I was like working on this like project that used computer vision to like help blind people identify different things. And I just got kind of like obsessive over that. But at the same time, my family wanted me to like go to college, and I wanted to keep working on this project, and we kind of settled on this like, all right, maybe I do like online school. And then I learned about this like extension school program at Harvard where you can both take classes like partially in person, partially online, while also like working. The caveat was there at the time you had to be at least like 25 years old to do that program because they didn't want a bunch of like undergrad age kids doing that.
Yeah.
So I ended up like petitioning the admissions board to make an exception. And I had to just like show them show them stuff I was working on. I was like really proud of this like patent that we got, and they ended up being like, okay, you need to take these 3 classes, and if you pass them, you're good. And then I ended up not passing them, and then I just was I just like got distracted. Like I started like doing random things and like getting I was like doing internet stuff, I guess. Okay. I was like, it wasn't even stuff that was significant. I was literally just like getting paid like $8 for helping random people online convert like a PNG to an SVG, right? Where all I did was I was just like take the PNG, throw it in like a converter, done. Like, cool, I just made $8. And it started like that. And then I was like, okay, I need to just keep doing more of these projects.
Yeah.
And I was living in a frat at the time and had to pay like really high rent. And I was just like, okay, cool. Like the more money I make, the more I can like rent out this frat and be cool. And so obviously that meant doing more work. And then
you get stuck in the dopamine cycle.
Correct. And then I just, there was like one thing that happened where like I ended up losing a week of time, but basically I just started like failing random exams, missing homework assignments, and I was like, fuck it, I'm not doing this anymore.
Do you regret that?
I did for a while, but then COVID happened, and so even if I would have stayed in the program, most of it would have been online.
Yeah.
So I think I would have very much regretted it had COVID not happened, because I would have missed out on the college experience.
Yeah.
But like everyone else did anyways, so I was like, and then I ended up, coming to California, like working with a bunch of people that I had met there, built stuff with my co-founders whom I had met there, and then they also dropped out and we sold a company together.
Right.
And then built another one, failed, and then they both went on to start like multi-billion-dollar companies each. And so that was like that was pretty elite.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you took the much more interesting path.
Well, when you fail, that's kind of the only path I had in front of me, to be honest. I passed 2 of the classes, and then I failed English.
Yeah, you seem to be doing it fine.
It's my 3rd language. They got to
Well, exactly. Slack. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah, the spot is stunning.
This is stunning. Actually, this is Marin, right?
Yeah, it is. Okay. So like, you have like the Sausalito side, and then wait, actually, since you are new to the Bay, I should probably show you. You should go to maybe the Spin Maker area. That seems like the general direction.
Nice. I have to be back at the place by like 6:30.
Ooh, okay, then we should head back. I forgot the place.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I'm doing an event tonight with a hacker house that Hummingbird actually just funded, which is really exciting.
Oh, cool. Which hacker house?
It's called Calculus.
Okay, cool.
And it's for the bet is like high agency scientists, essentially.
Awesome.
So instead of being sucked into the bureaucracy of doing masters and PhDs and stuff, which is like funny how things come full circle.
Yeah.
Like let's kind of take all the beautiful things that come with being in SF, being in hacker houses, moving fast, having that sort of like collaborative approach, but have it applied to people doing kind of crazy scientific things.
Hacker houses can be super, super powerful.
Yeah. I think so.
Would you consider living there?
I mean, I don't really know what I would be doing. Like a weird VC getting in everybody's way. I guess,
you'd be getting into good companies. That's what you'd be doing.
Yeah. If I was building, yeah, for sure. Like, I think if you're building, you want to throw yourself completely in, and totally immerse yourself. And I love this idea of like having like a Bell Labs situation of just, and because it's lots of different people working on different types of science, but there's often you can learn from each other. So yeah.
Are you doing any cool side projects or just like random things that that are more on the building side?
Right now, so I'm starting to think about this whole edge city concept of like, what are the interesting things that VCs could be doing in that space? Like, what can you incubate more? Like, how can you create these like society incubators? Like, how can you, this is, it's not really a project, it's just something that I've been like fanatically thinking about a lot recently.
What are your thoughts?
I think that there's something, I think particularly as we kind of move, kind of being like full-pilled on AGI, like what's going to become more important to us? It's going to be like our relationships, our communities, this like the creativity that comes when a human is interacting with another human. I think we're going to like very much value living in closer quarters with each other in better ways, and like re-engineering the way that we even do cities, for example. And I think this is like a random tangent, but like, for example, the fact that we have such like a decline in birth rates, I think there's a reason for that. Like, the nuclear family thing is bullshit. Like, why are we doing it this way? Like, why are we all living in these like tiny little things all interspersed and not living more like a community? Going back to that Oasis thing that I went to the other day, where they were all like a lot more collaborative. There were some kids, you could like share the childcare. Like, that's the way to have kids. Like, that's how you I don't know, I feel like I've gone full Elon here talking about like everybody should have more kids.
Nuclear family is it is a modern concept, and things used to be more tribal.
Yeah.
And I hope we see the pendulum switch back to like more interesting ways to like build community, because that definitely is lacking, and I don't know like why that happens. Like, why is it that we have something good and then over time it just degrades and we kind of lose it?
Yeah. I think it's a mix of things. But yeah, like they did studies on like remote tribes, and like they looked at, for example, like, a baby would be passed between 8 different adults per hour, whereas here we have, it's like there's 1 or maybe 2 parents.
If you pass a baby around that many adults per hour, you go to jail, I think.
Well, there just aren't that many people. I don't know, like maybe there is if like somebody comes around, but like realistically that it can't just be all on one person. Like, no wonder like people don't want to do that.
Also, you have like incredibly low trust societies now.
Yeah.
Where in Egypt, if I like saw a cute kid, I would like immediately grab them. Whereas in the US, I'm like, no, don't do that. Like, you are a...
People will look at you weird. Yeah, fair. That's fair. Should I put this in?
Yeah, go for it.
What about you? What are you working on at the moment? What are the weird things?
I've been getting more and more into like making music recently, and just
cool.
That entire world of art and media has just been more and more fascinating to me. Again, to your point on, post-AGI world pill type stuff, I think what's going to matter is relationships and creativity. And so I want to make sure I'm doing things that like make me feel something, not just things that make me think something.
Yeah.
And while there's so much that I love about San Francisco, sometimes I feel like the excessive thinking and lack of feeling can make the society feel a little bit sterile.
Yeah.
And I think you can have these people that are very cognitively developed that are incredibly emotionally stunted. And when you combine tremendous technological leverage with people that don't have the, for the lack of a better word, maturity to know what to do with it, you get suboptimal outcomes.
Yeah. Well, it's also... oh, there we go.
I'm a good driver.
Shush, Tesla,
All
shush.
right, there we go.
It's also like it's not an advantage anymore. Like intelligence, we can't compete. There's no point trying to compete on that level anymore when you've got like deep reason.
Great point. Like maybe it would be great to live in a world where intelligence doesn't matter.
or a different type of intelligence. I mean, that's always been like a bit of a problem of mine with like the IQ test. Like, what the fuck is intelligence anyway? Oh, sorry, I need to stop swearing.
Yeah, it's hard to define what intelligence is, but you can clearly define what it's not.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's
that's fair. Yeah, you know it when you're...
yeah. You know when it's not there.
Yeah. That's fair.
What type of intelligence that's not intellectual do you find most admirable?
I think body intelligence. You know, some people who just like seem to be so in tune with when they're getting sick, or like, oh, I'm really deficient in this, like, oh, I really need some people are just so like deeply, or like my fascia's tight. I'm like, I don't even know where my I can't even feel where this woman last week was like trying to tell me like to try to feel my fascia. I was like, I literally can't, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah. I do not have that intelligence at all.
Yeah. And I think it's something that we naturally do have, but in the same way that like you become more like, I don't know, like a sommelier over time can really train their sense of smell and taste to detect different notes in wine or whatever. Mm-hmm. I think you can train, and then you can also lose the senses as well, right? And I think it's something that we, you know, again, going back to like tribal cultures, they are a lot more in tune with their bodies and the bodies of others and like people's energies and this kind of thing. And I'm always like deeply impressed when you notice that somebody has that body intelligence. 'Cause, yeah.
Intelligence can be like learned, which is useful. I do like that analogy of like comparing it to being a sommelier and just actually developing that skill.
Yeah.
To a certain extent, though, not to be defeatist, but I think it's a lost cause for me. Like, I don't know if I will ever learn. I have like no spatial awareness, and I don't think if I can. I don't know how I would even start to learn that.
You can, well, like the studies that they did on UK, like London taxi drivers, where they literally like the size of their hippocampi literally grew, actually grew, because they were learning the whatever it's called, the whatever they have to, the way? No, whatever it is that London taxi drivers have to memorize. So, I don't know.
There's like a map thing they have to memorize, right?
Yeah, which is now completely opposite. That must be so annoying if you spend...
You can just, it is good when people know intuitively like where to go. You can just feel it.
Yeah.
I can feel when I'm using a map.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I definitely don't have a thing where, this is really embarrassing to admit, but you know, when they're like, oh yeah, east is that way. It takes me way too long to figure it out. Like looking at the sun.
Wait, let me add Land's End. This spot is cool, and then we'll make sure you get to your, where are you doing your event?
At the Hacker House.
Where's the Hacker? Okay, well,
where Octavia Street.
Okay, cool. That should be fun. Is this Hacker House new?
I think so.
Okay. I love the fact that Hacker Houses just like randomly spin up.
Yeah.
They just like spin up. They attract like super cool people. You just like make so many friends. And then, as is the natural like course of this type of stuff, they eventually kind of disintegrate into nothing, and no one asks why, but you just remember all the like cool people you met.
Yeah. I guess, you do need to have somebody kind of maintaining the soul of it for sure. I think so there's two guys running the Hacker House, and this seems to be their like real life mission. You know, when we were talking to them about like why do you want to do this? They're getting so pissed off about academia, and I think you need people like that are going to be like championing it and also keeping the bar really high in terms of the people that are living there, and it's something that they've clearly thought pretty obsessively about. But I agree. I think if you don't have that soul and drive, it's the same with a startup, right? Like you need the founder really pushing things through and keeping everybody on mission. Otherwise, it all kind of disintegrates.
Yep, completely agreed on that. How do you think they think about? Because naturally, the key thing I think that happens is people want to like scale things or make them bigger. And one of the things about Hacker Houses is like they shouldn't really be designed for scale. They should be designed for like community and almost like having that very tight-knit feeling.
Yeah.
I guess it ties back into your like societal engineering piece. Like, how do you think about, you know, you want to sort of engineer these societies. Okay, no, we're good. Like how big do you want them to be? What are the rules of those societies? How does all this stuff work?
Yeah, it's difficult because it's also like you have this weird line that you have to come across where it's like at what point does this become like a cult? And it's also that
Ideally at the very beginning.
but it's also like how permeable is the membrane into the society, right? Like if it becomes too closed off, then I think issues arise, and it becomes too, you lose the beauty of it, whereby like all of these different people are coming together and like, 1 + 1 = 100 kind of situation. But then if it's too permeable, then you like lose the center of gravity somehow.
Yeah.
It becomes like a non thing.
Interesting. It's like if they're kind of by definition, it can't be an in group without there being an out group.
Yeah.
Not to glamorize the idea of there being an out group versus in group, but I think that is very much a thing. I don't know, the way I would probably think about that is not just how permeable is the membrane, very interesting way of putting it, and I think a really good analogy here, but like what is the membrane? Is it something that is like an immutable fact, like attribute of that person? For example, I mean, you probably wouldn't make it like race driven or like nationality driven or religion driven, but then the question becomes like, what are aspects of identity that people can make a part of themselves that still have a sufficiently high like barrier to entry that it like still represents something?
Sure. I do think there's something about like maybe these like proto-towns at the moment, there is a bit of a filtering function of like if
okay, I need to I'm trying to like this 6:30 time is making, I'm like, if we get on the bridge, no, we're not trapped on the bridge yet. Okay, we're good. There's this one exit that has caused me to crash this multiple times, which is like one of those, that one exit, which you miss and it like adds 20 minutes to the drive.
Okay, cool. And now this is what our life is now. I think there's like a little bit of a filtering thing that happens anyway, because it takes a very curious person to... God.
They're not super happy with me.
Nope. To even be like interested in these kind of spaces. And
have you been a part of any of those types of spaces, or like what got you inspired into this whole subject area?
I think partly seeing how well Edge has done it, because I think I was a little bit worried when I first heard about it.
Is Edge a cult?
No. Well, yeah, there was like worries that it would be like that, I was worried that it was just going to be like a load of crypto bros or something. But they've done it really well, I think, it's like all very much modeled on the co-founders themselves, who are just deeply interesting and interested humans, deeply kind humans, deeply curious humans, like deeply and also very multifaceted. So I think it kind of is like modeled like in a startup, right? Like the culture becomes part of, is disseminated by the founders themselves. So.
Yeah, just like a cult.
Just want to go. I do, if I'm being totally honest, I do think I have this thing where...
Oh my God.
Oh wow.
This is a cult vehicle for sure.
There we go. They're off to Edge. Yes. Yes. I want to get in that van.
Oh my God.
It's called Love Tours. Fun. What is that symbol on the back?
That is the symbol. This is like, okay. This is a little bit too on the nose, hippie wise.
Yeah.
Like, I'm actually unsure if they're real hippies.
I don't think I caught some of them. One of them seems to be wearing like a polo. I don't think that's hippie.
Yeah.
I think.
Pretty sure that's like against hippie mandate.
Yeah, for sure. But. What was I saying? Oh yeah, I think there's definitely a thing of like, because this whole thing of me never feeling like I quite fit in.
Explain that. You've said this a few times now, and I totally see why you don't fit in. Like, there's just so many issues. But beyond the... No, I'm kidding.
Beyond the fact that you were clearly a weirdo, Catherine. Yeah.
What are the ways in which you feel like you don't fit in? Or it seems like you half fit into a lot of things.
Oops, I just accidentally sent a thing to... Oops. There we go. Let's not do that. How are the ways I don't fit in? Well, I moved around a ton as a kid.
Okay, same.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, no, go ahead. I won't cut you off.
I'm curious about where you moved it. So all around Europe, but like, I mean, insanely free. And it wasn't that my parents were diplomats or anything else. I think they were just sort of dopamine chasers. Always on to the next thing. And I do think if you grow up in that way, you know, and because we moved around so much and we weren't in the same country as like my extended family, you know, I didn't really have those ties, and you're like constantly having to chop and change your friendship groups. And I think you also learn to kind of experiment with your personality a little bit as well. You start to like, oh, when we moved to Germany, I'm going to be more, I didn't like that I was like this, and I'm going to be like this when I go to the next place. You kind of start to question who you are, and like where your roots are and where your core is a little bit. So I think it's probably stemmed from that.
Borderline personality disorder is actually defined by that
Great.
characteristic.
Thanks so much for that.
not diagnosing you, but it's that like shifting sense of identity.
Yeah.
That probably would make sense if like you keep getting voluntarily or involuntarily like uprooted.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess the way in which I relate to that experience is I think I've been to like maybe like 12 different schools or something like that. Moved around a bunch. I've been to like over 40 countries, but weirdly enough, I've never traveled as an adult.
Yeah.
So I'm curious like what that does to you, where you've just kind of been all over the place, but like haven't traveled much as an adult. I think it kind of, you kind of go one way or the other. And I think I've oscillated a little bit. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, I really want to nest. I want to be like and I like to have like structure and schedules and things in place. But then on the other hand, I think particularly at the moment, you know, I'm really moving around a lot. There's been like a lot going on, and, you know, I've been sort of bouncing around a little bit, and I've noticed that I'm able to do that. And when I tell other people about the fact that I've been sort of like moving around a lot, they're like, wow, you must be exhausted. And I'm not. And I wonder if like it's a little bit of a superpower of like growing up the way that we did, that you kind of can become used to it. Do you find yourself maintaining relationships virtually, or do you do the thing where you just kind of like new place equals new life and a full reset?
Oh no, like I definitely kind of establish my people in various places, and I feel like deep care and love for them, and will want to, and so when I see them, I'll want to spend a lot of time with them, and like a lot of quality time, and be like totally honed in on what's going on for them and this kind of thing. But it's definitely, you definitely have to put work in. You can't just like you can't just like not message someone for a few months and then expect that the friendship is still going to be as robust. So I think it's all about like identifying who your people are and then putting the work in there. This is a beautiful area. Where are we now?
Wow, this is Seacliff. This is where you go like post.
This is
This is post IPO.
This is where I want my founders to end up.
Yes.
If they so choose. Yeah.
Correct. Quite a few founders that have. You have to play your cards right, and then you end up here.
Totally. I don't know. I think I would still pick the Oasis situation. Like living in a little flat. They have these like Wednesday, they all hang out in the gardens. They have a cafe, but it's not a cafe, it's just one person's flat. Every Friday morning is the cafe, and you just like drop in and read books.
Right, that's really wholesome.
I know. And they have like a quiz night, they have a movie night, they have a journal club.
This is like wholesome college.
Exactly. Except they're all like millionaire founders.
Even better.
Yeah, because they're all like really, really interesting.
Okay. Millionaire founders tend to be, and I say this carefully, not as corrupted, which is nice. Like I don't know why the bar for money getting to people's heads here is actually a lot higher.
Yeah, fair.
I think it starts to get to your head post 10 billion, or at least I've kind of seen that.
Fair. I guess it must be such a insane realization. I don't know. I feel like I haven't known too many billionaires in my life. But they don't necessarily, like, for example, like Christian Angermeyer, he's a remarkable person. He's built himself up and then lost, and then built himself up and then lost billions over his lifetime. It's clearly not the money that's driving him. It's like something else that is like need to succeed. And he has this like palpable energy that I don't think any amount of money would make him stop. because he just like wants to win. And if he wins all the money, then it will become, I want to win something else, or I want to drive that change.
It totally makes sense that he's into psychedelic research.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's kind of odd. But, yeah.
That's exciting that Hummingbird is opening an office here.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think is the plan for you on that front? Do you want to like move to the Bay, continue investing here and do the whole SF thing, or do you still feel like pretty rooted in the UK?
I think I'm open to it. I think it's worth exploring. I do think it is kind of wild, you know, coming here in a week. I mean, I'm also very conscious of the way that I do my trips here is maybe not totally sustainable. I'll literally have like 13 meetings, like scheduled Tetris style.
Oh, wow.
Like a day, plus an event or whatever every day, which probably isn't feasible. But it does feel like a week here is like 3 months in the UK in terms of the kind of people, the kind of conversations you're having, the kind of like stuff that you get to see. So yeah, I think it would like accelerate my learning, accelerate all the cool stuff that I'm doing by moving here, for sure. Would you ever leave?
No. But I would think about leaving for like extended chunks of time.
Okay.
Almost like I don't want to call them eras. That's so like self-aggrandizing.
Yes.
But just like I'm just gonna like go do music stuff for a bit, or I'm gonna go to. I don't really know. So far, I've mostly been constrained to the US, and it's surprising how many different like kind of worlds you can enter here. There's like the entertainment industry, there's New York, and I just have really enjoyed exploring just like tech, media, finance, and I want to go even deeper into science. I've gone relatively deep, but I want to really immerse myself like deeper. The one experience was like living in a lab in South Bay, and that was a really cool.
When did you do that?
I did that. I actually like lived back and forth like intermittently, but like within the past like year and a half.
Yeah.
Spent like multiple months living there. I was like the first man to get like a genetic tattoo that senses your hormone levels, and that was really cool. It was like a company I invested in that I'm like really proud of like what the founders built. And yeah, it was just like a super cool experience, and being able to like actually contribute to real science was super exciting.
Totally. Yeah, there's definitely, again, like going back to this like society, I think that there's a few really interesting founders doing exactly that. Like I was speaking to one that's, I guess he's kind of trying to create like a Los Alamos situation, except in St. Louis, of all places, like building out like wet labs, which for like a lot less than you'd need to do if you're in SF, and like bringing in different scientists from different fields, or like non-scientists but like have a scientific edge or whatever, to just like contribute to the, I don't know, the wider field of like this kind of stuff that he's like trying to do longevity more broadly, and he's like just bringing different people in.
How many warnings do you think I've gotten?
A lot.
How many times has this beeped? A lot.
Yeah, a lot.
So based off how badly I drive, my like insurance premiums change.
Really?
Yeah.
They started doing that.
Yeah.
It kind of makes sense.
It makes sense. I don't like it personally. Yeah, but I think I've tried to mess with it multiple times, and then I got like banned from full self-driving for trying to like block the camera, trying to like I added like water bottles here to like artificially make it seem like my hands are moving it, like just a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. How much does it change? Is it like over time it will like change a lot, or like does each little like bing 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 like, oh, that's a few cents, or
Oh, I think it would be way more fun if each time it was a few cents.
That would be
like I want to get like mini fines. That would make it more fun.
That would be like that. We gamify that shit.
Yeah, like right now it's not super clear. I just know that I'm like D- score.
Okay.
In terms of like I'm just barely doing all right. But yeah, I love the little, like, all the different American, like, scoring mechanisms and, like, credit scores and, like, all these, like, in hacking insurance premiums. I just find it to be, like, a fun game. Well, up until I mess something up.
Well, yeah. Also, but I also feel like there's something about, like, making it real time would be way better. Because we're not very good at, like, I guess the same in healthcare, right? Like, yes, I know I should, whatever it is, I should go for a run, or, like, I know I shouldn't eat that thing, or whatever it is.
Yes.
But, like, in the moment, the ROI is better than... Even though I know that in a month's time I'll feel like crap for doing it.
Correct. Yeah, like even if I just saw like a couple cents get knocked off. Oh, whoops. As you can tell, I'm
couple of cents
definitely a spaz.
Yeah.
This is why I need to like always be going for like drives or walks or.
Totally.
Or I just like I'm so fidgety.
Have you got one of those walking treadmills?
No, that's so high perform. Max has one, and that's like high performing human behavior.
Yeah.
That's not me. Like I can't. Like that takes.
What do you mean that's not you?
That's not me. Like that takes a lot of like executive functioning, being like, I'm going to exercise as I work. Like that's a sign of actually having your shit together.
Okay.
I'm like a not that.
I think you'd love it. I think you'd love it because also it gives you like that kind of part of your brain that's just constantly going. Brr, brr. It has to focus on the treadmill, otherwise you'll fall over.
Do you have one?
I have had one in the past, like not at the moment, because like at my old place I did though, and I really liked it. It took a while to get used to, but then once you do get used to it, it's great. I once had a meeting, hilariously, with someone, and we were both on walking treadmills, like on either sides of like a tall desk, just looking at each other. Just like walking at each other, and then like the remote controls on the desk, and I'm a very competitive human, so then when they kept putting theirs up, I kept putting mine up. It's like, where does this go? Like at one point are we just going to be like sprinting at each other, not commenting on the fact that that's what we're doing.
I don't know if this is like funny or dystopian. Like something about that visual is just like so jarring and hilarious to me.
It was very intense. I did come out of that and was like, that was a really intense meeting, but I kind of liked it. I felt like I could focus more.
We need more meetings where we like do stuff.
Yeah.
That's not like I'm no more Zoom and coffee. Like there's only so much Zoom and coffee that can be consumed.
Oh my god, yeah. On these trips, I swear to God, I drink like 17 gallons of milk and coffee and matcha. It's insane. I'm just like very highly caffeinated and very high calcium and vitamin D.
I'm sure that is like every productive person's diet. Yeah.
I don't know how. I think, but there's a point at which you just become really like.
Correct. I have this like little like caffeine squirter thing that I use to caffeinate myself.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's very efficient. This like Mio thing.
Oh wow.
Take a little bit now.
It's 6:20.
These emails aren't going to answer themselves.
Okay, that was a very SF situation.
Yeah. Well, actually, they can if I add like an AI agent, but.
Well, exactly.
But.
It's not really aligned with your biohacking if you're having caffeine. So
It's fine.
the endless.
I'm not trying to do like the biohacking where I need to like
my body
do the hard
temple.
work.
Yeah.
My body's a temple, like optimize every little thing.
I'll just inject a lot of.
I'm
peptides.
trying. Yeah, basically, like solve it for me and just like make me be able to be a heathen. And there's another school of thought which like Max always like reprimands me. I'll eat peanut butter and he's like, do you know how many oil? I'm like, Max, like it's peanut butter. They're like, please
it's protein,
let me live my life. Like
I like those little cards that they give out, the superpower.
Yes.
Yeah, they're smart.
But no, I'd rather have the stuff that like, you know, the injections and shit. Just get it. Well, that makes it sound really bad.
It doesn't sound great, but to each their own, right?
Well, I think, okay, so the way I think about it is there's a lot that we can optimize like through effort. Mm-hmm. And there's like an 80-20 there of like, there's stuff I won't do to not harm myself. But I think where a lot of these like biohacking protocols can be harmful is you can actually have your full-time life be optimizing your like body. Yeah. And I've seen quite a lot of people fall into this trap where like they create their entire lives around like optimizing their longevity.
Yeah.
And you're just like...
And then they're like, oh my God, my life has been so boring and I've missed 20 years of my fun. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I actually also think that this is maybe slightly controversial. I think people can meditate too much. I've actually seen like some people, they meditate too much. They go too...
Yes.
everything is too intuitive, everything is too thoughtful, everything is too like, I don't know, I guess it's also like maybe it's like a different kind of, maybe they need to meditate in a different way, but it just becomes like too inwardly focused.
Yes, it's almost like hyper kind of spiritual, like interconnectedness vibes can actually be harmful because you're not affected by problems. Like, you need to be affected a little bit.
Yeah.
You need to be,
Yeah.
like, you need to emotionally respond.
Yeah.
My dad is Buddhist, and like, I get really mad at how like Zen he is.
Oh, interesting.
And I'm just like react, like show me something, like be like be human.
Yeah. I'm just imagining you just like prodding him.
Yeah, I just keep escalating more and more. Like I try to get a rise out of him, and he just doesn't react.
I wonder if that's the like, I guess it's kind of like if the ultimate Zen Buddhist is on one end of the scale and the ultimate like total ADHD is on the other.
Yeah,
maybe we're about that dynamic. Yeah, I can. Yeah, maybe somewhere in the middle.
He's like a Buddhist engineer.
Wow.
And so he's just like quite Zen, but he's like wholesome, but also like very rational. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I'm like, does he have that part of his brain that like knows what like extreme emotionality feels like, or what being ADHD is like? Yeah,
maybe not. My brother's a bit like that. He meditates a lot. He's very like the kindest, most thoughtful person. I don't think he meditates too much, but like he's definitely very different to me. Sometimes he's like, "What's going on in your brain? Just have one thought."
Do you meditate?
I should more. Especially the irony of, particularly when I was working at my last fund, like a mental health focused fund. It's like all these things I know I should be doing, which I'm not.
Yeah, definitely feel that.
Yeah. Do you? Or have you rebelled against it? It's a funny thing to rebel against.
I've tried it, and it's been useful, but the thing that I'm unable to put my finger on is like during the times when I have enough stability to tell myself, oh, I'm going to meditate, like, am I already in a better headspace to be taking that action?
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure if, like, the meditating is helping me, or if by the time I've gotten myself to the point where I'm meditating, I'm already in a good headspace because I'm telling myself to do something that healthy.
Exactly. I think that's the case with a lot of, like, mental health apps and all these kind of things. I think, okay, yeah, fine, but if I was in the place where I'm actually going to log onto the app and start doing this, then that's actually not when I need it. Yeah.
It's, like, very healthy behavior.
Sure.
That's the hardest thing about meditating is like it's exceptionally hard to do when you need to do it the most.
Yeah.
Which is why I really like the stuff that is like short acting and like silver bullets, because I think it can kind of like just like put you on the right track, and then from there you have good habits.
Yeah.
I guess taking things full circle, like psychedelics are very much known to be like this, where you can just have one mega dose, in theory, hypothetically, and they can like literally reorient you. And I think that's incredible.
Yeah, weirdly, actually, psychedelics. They can help people. They find it easier to meditate after they've taken psychedelics.
Yes,
which I find it interesting.
Which one's the hacker house?
I guess I've actually never been. This is my first time going.
Oh, okay, exciting. I guess maybe there. I'll become a good driver one day.
It's more interesting this way.
You're welcome. Such a pleasure, Catherine. Yeah, I would love to join. I'll check it out.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah, all right, let's do it.
Yeah.